driving down the road, song sing, hands glide through the wind, hearts warm, feeling love, dusty clouds chase our car. There's no place like home, place where you belong. Sun-soaked skin, we lost the sunscreen on the back seat. Pace the speed, press pause on the party. Heads held high, we found the sunscreen in the glove box. Sun-soaked skin, we lost the sunscreen on the back seat. Pace the speed, press pause on the party. Heads held high, we found the sunscreen in the glove box.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and welcome back to Office Hours. It's been far too long. I've missed you guys. I think you've hopefully missed us as well. Man, it's been a wild 2021 already. Hopefully you guys got a chance to see our announcement show that came just the week after NAMM, where we debuted the new UA effects pedals. And of course, I saw lots of familiar names on our second day show because we were also previewing a whole bunch of the new Luna features that are arriving here in 2021. Oh, hair. Yeah, the hair. It's 2021, baby. You know, it was all one big long play just for that UA effects release. I wanted to have nice long rock and roll hair for the guitar pedals, and then straight back to business. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys know. It feels good to be noticed. I appreciate you guys. But yeah, we've had a couple of great shows, and then now we're back with our regularly scheduled office hours. You guys are going to notice there's a bit of a new look, a little bit of a new feel. There's some new software, so if anything goes wrong today, it's not my fault. It's the software's fault. But along with me, as always, we've got the crew. We've got Drew, Matt, and Connor. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, everybody.
Good to be back.
Yeah, man, guys, it's been so long since I've seen you guys. I mean, I guess I've been seeing you guys in prep for this a lot, but how's everybody's 2021 going so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
It's good. A lot of exciting stuff happening for us here, and a lot of more hope on the horizon. It seems like for the world. So there's some positive things.
Absolutely. Well, that's what essentially what I think we're gonna it's our first show back. We're gonna take it easy today. We're gonna walk people through all of the features, because while we've been off air, the Luna team they've been on air. They've delivered 2 updates. The 1.1.4 and 1.1.5 have both been rolled out. So there's a lot of really nice quality of life improvements that have arrived, and I know we kind of showed a few of these off during our preview show. But I figured today would be a good chance for us to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into those features now that they've shipped and everyone's got a hand, able to actually use them themselves. But also, as always, the whole point of us doing this live with you guys is for questions and answers. So if you guys have got questions as we're going through stuff, just throw them into the chat. Let us know if you guys want some more clarity on stuff, or if you want to see some more things. I'm watching the chat. It looks like it's a lot more to do with the hair. Do we want to spend 30 minutes on the hair? Is that what I'm
Probably
seeing?
a hair segment.
Ben,
yeah.
give us a little spin. Give us a little spin in the chair, maybe.
You don't want to see the back. No one wants to see the back.
Okay, all right.
No, but it's feels good to take a few pounds off the head like that. As always. Yeah, everyone's got new cameras. We got a new look. We got a new feel. Man, this is I'm excited. I hope it all holds together. We actually, for those who are interested, we switched from a single computer with Zoom, so now we're running a dual. We've got a dedicated streaming machine just to handle the broadcast, which allowed us to kind of up some things. And Zoom is now out of the equation, so we're able to use nice cameras. And you guys are going to notice a whole bunch of new stuff going on here. Cool. So I guess. Drew, Matt, I'll trust you guys to kind of help keep a eye here on the chat, make sure anything comes up. Because we talked about the UAFX, talked about the preview show, so there's some stuff. Obviously, I'm seeing some people are already looking for more updates on some of the stuff that we previewed. We'll get to those. We'll get to those in due time. But today we're going to focus on the ones that have been delivered. The first one of which is the automation edit value and automation fine adjust. This is one that ever since it arrived in Luna, I've been using it on every single mix. It's such a nice way to be able to tweak your automation. So let me share my screen here for you guys. There we go. So now you guys are going to notice that anytime you hover over an automation point, you now get to see let me zoom in here for you. Look at this. We also now have zoom in. I know a lot of people have been asking for that for a while. So you can now
Looks pretty.
You can now see the value of all of your automation breakpoints. You can come in, make a selection, move it up or down. You see the plus or minus, so you can see the changes that are being made as you're doing as you're making a range adjustment like this. Obviously, when you're just editing a single point, it's just going to show you, what it's at. But when you make a selection, it now shows you the delta, the difference between the two. And the one that I'm also really getting a lot of use out of is being able to press Shift and go up and down. This allows you to move in 0.1 dB increments. So you can see I'm moving my mouse the same amount, but it's going a lot slower. So this allows you to make fine adjustments. And yeah, this is one of those things where now that we have it, it's hard to imagine working without it. But Connor, anything else that people should know about the new automation stuff that I'm forgetting?
I mean, you covered the main functionality. There's certainly a variety of displays that will show up there. It's important to say that any plugin that supports providing this information to Luna will show you those values. So some audio units plugins out there, you might not see a value, but that's definitely a small number of plugins. The vast majority of plugins do the right thing and show you this information. But if you pull something up that doesn't have the ability to display a actual data value, it'll just show you the percentage. So that's the only sort of gotcha there, where this one is correctly showing a percentage because it's a dry wet mix that is totally percentage based. So yeah, it works for parameters that are continuous, meaning they adjust in like the continual increments, or for parameters that have like a few settings like on or off, and you see the name of the actual setting exactly. Great example of actually seeing what the bank setting is there for the lexicon there. So yeah, it's really great to have it. Just like you said, it's like one of those things where we're like, man, we got to get this in here. We finally got it in here, and now it's like, yep, it's wild that we did our jobs without that. So really, really nice to have.
And just to add to that, Ben, the shift thing is also for knobs and faders too. So real-time controls in the mix window, that's always been that way. So
That's right. Yeah, shift is used again in automation to extend that same concept of fine adjustment from the controls faders in the mixer to the automation in the timeline.
Nice. And I saw a good question. Rich was asking, how do you get the pencil tool happening here in Luna? So this probably, as good a time as any to kind of refresh everybody on how just drawing in automation overall works, right? So the way, one of the ways I do it the most is I love kind of coming in and say, like, I want to lift up here, let me do this on a vocal track up here. So, I just want this phrase a little bit louder. My preference is to come in a lot of times and kind of just move the automation for the whole phrase. So that all you do, make a selection, grab the line, now you're raising it up. However, a lot of people, what you want to do is you want to come in and draw. So holding control on the keyboard, you can see my cursor changes to the pen tool, and then now it's going to draw. And you're going to notice, like, why is it only drawing those couple points? That's because of where my grid value is set, and I'm currently on snap. So let me undo that, and I'll turn off snap. And now when I do that, you're going to see now we're getting drawn in automation all over the place. The one thing that I find really helpful when I'm doing this, again, is like, as you noticed, where I left the volume, it's now written that to the end of the song. So, because there was no automation on this track previously, now that I've gone in and drawn this, it leaves the volume to the end, kind of like as if you were doing a latch automation, right? So a great way to, if you're like, all right, I love the level of everything except I want to work on this one, is to come in here and just double click on the line, and you'll see just by double clicking, it's going to set a breakpoint at that spot, and it's not going to automatically jump it around. It's gonna help me commit to where my volume level is. So put a breakpoint before or after, and then now when I come in with the pencil tool, I can do whatever I want, but my volume's gonna maintain my rough balance that I already had dialed in for that track. And of course, with that snap, with being able to have snap, you can come in here and you can either turn snap off to have it just draw in any breakpoints that it needs, or come in just with like a little bit finer point, like a 16th note seems to work. Oops, let me turn the snap back on. And now it's drawing breakpoints every 16th, and you can see, since it's a volume control, it's automatically working its way from one breakpoint to another. And yeah, to erase breakpoints, it's the same as writing them in. See, I'm holding control, and you see it goes from the pencil tool to the eraser tool as I get over that. So you can also just select and delete breakpoints as well. So yeah, it's kind of a rough overview of any other automation moves that I'm forgetting, Connor, that you find?
Two things that I think are super helpful. One that you did just so naturally that I don't think you even thought about it and mentioned it, but the minus key switching track views. So that you see automation, so that when you're like, oh, I want to go automate a track, you just select that track and press the minus key, the one on the home row keyboard keys. So between 0 and plus, you just press the minus key there, and it switches you to the default automation view and then back to Clips view. Nice. Super helpful to really get in and access the most important automation parameter typically. So that's a really key one. And then turning on and off the grid, shift backslash. So and then you can also use shift plus and minus right next to those keys, so they're all kind of right there together. Shift plus and minus will increase and decrease the grid, and shift backslash will turn the grid on and off.
Yep. So here's me going shift minus, Shift plus, Shift backslash to turn snap on and off. Yeah, I find myself using these all the time, and a lot of times like I'll go in and be editing notes or whatever, 16th note, and then I'll zoom my whole session out and want to quickly get to work on a bar, just kind of Shift minus till I see that, and then now I'm back to kind of being able to do larger arrangements, just like that.
Another one I used pretty often, Control, Command, left and right arrow, which on a selected track will cycle you through all of the automation playlists. So if you just hammer that to the right, you'll just go through all of them, which is nice.
Nice. Well, it looks like it goes through all the main ones, right?
Exactly. It does all of the primary views, so clips, warps, and then everything that's related to the main output. Often, if you end up adding inserts, like this is a great example, the amount of parameters there essentially gets you lost in like the arrowing capability. So right now we're just restricting it to the primary track views, but that's a really good one. Like if folks are wanting,
Right, yeah, but I think once you
access-
have it, I believe, won't it do it once you have it?
If you view one, it's going to cycle through the next and previous, exactly. But then
Oh,
once
okay,
it
cool.
gets to the main ones, it gets trapped there basically. So it's a good one if folks
gotcha.
are wanting full access to that. It's really just because it's so easy unless you have the browser open to just like what parameter am I in, and so that's why part of why the minus key is there, just like you can hit it twice to always get back to volume or always back to clips view.
Yeah, I find, that's a really good point there, Connor, and hopefully you guys all picked up on that. So like I can be in here, let's say I'm adjusting the line gain on one of my plugins, right? So now I've written automation here. So I've adjusted this. Now when I hit minus, it's going to go back to the clip. Then I hit minus again, it's going to go to my main volume fader. So no matter what automation lane you're in, if you want to get back to the main one, it's just the minus key away. And what does that do on bus tracks? It goes between volume and mute, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, because there's no timeline data for clips or anything.
that makes sense. Nice. Any other automation questions that I missed while I've got my screen shared up here?
Looks like someone's asking again just what the keyboard shortcut is to go between items in the list, and it's Control, Command, left, and right arrows.
Control, Command, left, right. Yep. So you can see here. Let me zoom in. So as I do that, reviewing volume, and then Control, Command, right arrow. I'm stepping through all the main parameters that you would view. Nice. Awesome. And hopefully you guys are appreciating. We've always heard the feedback that you guys want to see our screens bigger. So now that we're out of Zoom, I saw a few people are wondering what we're working with. This is called Ecamm, is the name of the software. So the way that we're sharing screens now, it actually allows us to use the built-in Zoom functionality in Mac to show you guys what it is that we're looking at and be able to see that stuff clear. So
Which is not on by default. So you want to go to accessibility, and then you go to the zoom, and it's the default combination is Control scroll wheel. So if you just hit the checkbox, then you'll get that functionality throughout the entire OS.
awesome, nice. Well, guys, man, we're getting back to the rhythm, back into the office hours seats here. So yeah, I've now got chat pulled up a little bit here, so we can keep on moving. Because that was a 1.1.4 feature, so that's now actually been out for almost a month, over a month now, Connor.
Yeah, I lose track so quickly because we're always on to the next thing. So yeah, that was sometime in early February, I think.
Yeah.
Or late January.
I think it was like right.
So fast.
Yeah, you guys are just you're too quick for everybody.
We had a little bit of a break there, over the holidays, kind of spaced things out a little bit, and everyone was, enjoying some time and taking it easy. But now we're right back at it. Got a lot of cool stuff coming in the next couple releases.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited for some, especially the big dot release. We're starting to getting some hints about what's arriving here in a few months. But let's keep it focused on the stuff that has shipped. Which next on my list is all the stuff that has to do with the Sends functionality. So Drew, do you want let me share Drew's screen here, and let's walk everybody through some of the new Sends functionality, and so essentially what's been tweaked here.
Yeah, so the idea with Sends is to try and make them a bit more like inserts. So prior to I believe this was 115, or it might have been 114. I can't remember. They're blurring together a little bit, but we're used to up here in the inserts. We're used to this functionality where we can see an expanded menu here, which you can get to either clicking on the dot or right clicking up in the header up here. And then also bringing up the plugin window. So there was a lot of functionality here in the inserts, and the idea was to bring all of that to the send. So now if you hover over a send, you'll notice it has a similar arrangement. It has the expanded list view, which, as you can see, has a lot of things like copy, disable, remove, mute, and so forth. And then you also have the ability to now the placard view brings up the large fader, which which is how you get to the pan as well. So in a plugin, of course, it brings up the plugin window, but on a send, we've used that to make the sends bigger. And then, of course, your assignment arrow here, or the assignment plus sign, which will bring open the browser. So we can do things like, prior to this release, in order to copy sends, you had to use Luna's global copy and paste situation, which is super cool and actually very, very, very cool because it allows for a lot of swiping workflows. But this now you can do what often you'd expect to do, which would be to simply just drag and drop sends, right?
Yes.
So a simple drag and drop will move, and then if you hold down Option, then that'll copy. We also have the ability, this is super cool too, to be able to command click which is basically the same, it disables it. So it like turns it off. So even if it had automation on it, or if it was muted and had mute automation, it just won't come back, because it's kind of like a disable feature.
Gotcha.
And then on top of that, we're able to do things like if you have a bunch, I just have a couple here, but let's say you had a bunch of sends, I could come over here and I could say copy all, and then come over to another track and say paste all. So if I had a bunch of sends from one track and wanted to bring them over, I could just bring them all over, in one fell swoop.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so a lot of functionality there.
We've for the last year or so, we've always been showing using the modifiers over there on the left side of the screen, using modifiers to manage copying and pasting sends. So the fact that now you can just hold Option and click and drag, like we're all used to with insert effects. I can yet again. This is something now that we have it. It's like I'm shocked that I would live this long without it.
Yeah, and mute all and unmute all and so forth. And then the other thing that's send related is over here in part of the group attribute. So if you'll notice I have a drum group here, and if I right click on this, you can see now that we've added sends as their own attribute. So.
Oh, nice.
We're slowly granulating the amount of control you have over in the mix window. So now the mixing attribute is all of the major stuff like faders and solos and mutes and pans and so forth. And then inserts have their own attribute, and then sends have their own attribute. So that's another feature that was added that was related to sends. So.
That's nice. And I love that those are separate too, right? So that way, if you guys are working with groups, you can create a group, say for like your drum group, and you can make it control just the audio edits. But then you can make one for all of your instrument tracks and have it control the faders or control all the sends. You can really get in there and get kind of tweaky with. And I do this a lot of times where I'll make a group just for controlling sends. If a whole stack of background vocals, for instance, maybe I don't want to link their mixers because I want the pans to always be free and independent from each other, but I want them all to be sending to my reverbs with the same amount. So being able to get in there and be tweaky like this, actually, it's a huge benefit.
Yeah. So here I am with the send attribute enabled, and you can see I'm controlling the drum reverb all together. But if I don't want that functionality, I can disable the sends, and now they're controlled individually while the mix group is still happening as a part of that. So
that's great.
Yeah, definitely just getting more granular, giving you more control and more options there.
That's awesome. And yeah, Connor, anything else that we're forgetting about some of the new sends functionality?
The one thing that comes to mind is you did the right-click menu version of it, but if you hit copy in the mixer modifier section or do Command-C, there's now a copy icon in the entire sends row. So you can easily
right
swipe and paste all sends on a track, which is super common, obviously, like that you are going to set up a number of tracks with identical sends for core effects returns in your session. So that gives you the easy capability to do so, just with the same swiping behavior that you're used to.
Well, I noticed too. Is that copying behavior, is that new for cues as well? Because I noticed that icon popped up for the cue sends as well.
Yeah, that'll copy settings exactly.
Yeah, so I can imagine for tracking sessions, right? If you kind of dial in the blend on, say, like the drums, now you can quickly copy paste all those cue settings across all your drum tracks. That's rad. There you go. Yep. Nice. And yeah, man, again, for people following along at home, some of to me, the most important keyboard shortcut to know about sends is that you can press and hold Option, click and drag, and bring your sends from one track to another.
Yeah, for sure.
Lazy me. That is literally, that's one of the things I'm using all of the time. Just like copying, as soon as I have it set up, because it's saves like 4 or 5 clicks from having to plus and then go over to the left, find the bus that you want, dial up the amount to a certain point. If you've already got the reverb, say on a guitar track, you can quickly just Option drag that over to a vocal, or allows you to reroute and change up your send flow really, really quickly. Nice. Awesome, guys. Let's see, any questions here in the chat? See, Peter's asking group track functionality. So I guess, there's groups. The way Luna's handling groups is you're able to make custom groups, but groups themselves don't necessarily get their own audio track, right? If you wanted to do that, you would create a bus, send all those tracks into a bus, and then you could kind of treat that like a group.
Yeah, that's what I've done here. Here I have a drum subgroup that all of my drum tracks are feeding. So if we look at the outputs, you can see that all the drum subs go to a bus master, and then I'm actually sending from that over to a parallel crush bus off to the side. So yeah, you kind of get the benefits of everything. So if I'm interested in affecting the drum levels that are pushing into the compression, I would I could use the direct ones. But if I'm interested in controlling the level of my drum subgroup after this processing, in other words, I don't want it to impact the amount of compression happening here with the Neve, then I can do that here. So this is pre-processing level control, and this would be post-processing level control. So yeah, that's how you'd want to handle that situation.
And I think part of the question too is about folder capabilities, which we don't have in the bus yet, but there's a spill feature that does sort of like the focus in on just the tracks that are routed to a particular bus. So it works in a similar way that lets you manage the session visibility or track visibility and display just the tracks routed to a bus. And you can also add the command modifier to that to open and close essentially things like a folder. So it actually provides very similar functionality to what other like what Live, for instance, calls a group track, where you open and close it essentially. So similar feature, not quite exactly like a folder track though.
Yeah, but so what Connor's saying, just to flesh that out a little bit, if I spill my main fader, it'll only show me the all of my effects returns and group masters that are feeding that main fader, and then when I unspill it, I go back to seeing everything else. So it's like a very handy way of being able to drill down into that and be able to say, I've spilled my main fader, and then if I spill my drum sub, it'll show me just the drum subgroup out of that, and then I can command click and get back to the original spill that I was spilling the main. So command spill is really powerful to be able to have all of your group masters showing now, and then drill down, and then command spill to drill back out.
Nice.
So you can really manage a huge mix really, really easily that way.
Yeah, that's how I've been rocking it. I've got a dual monitor display here, and I've posted a couple of pictures of this where I'll have my main mixer kind of be working on my main screen here, but then I leave my main fader spilled to all my buses up on my big display, so that way at any moment I can solo a group of tracks or make an adjustment on the fly to my groups, and always kind of having that dual mixer architecture. Really, really enjoy. Well, awesome, Drew. Thanks so much for walking us through all those sends, man. And
Sure.
it's fun seeing everybody. So many familiar names back here in the chat along with us. It feels like we're home again here. But also, as always, seeing lots of requests for features and stuff to be implemented into Luna. Like that folder track. I've seen hardware IOs have popped up a couple times, audio quantize, multi-outs for instruments. You guys know what I'm about to say, right? You say it with me. Hit that feedback
Hit
button.
the feedback button.
Yeah, hit the feedback button, guys. It still works in 2021, and it's really important for us to be able to prioritize all these features because there's definitely not a short list. I'm sure Connor, you know this better than anybody else how long that list is of features that we and our users all want in Luna. So having that feedback is crucial for being able to sort that list and decide what to be implementing next.
Yeah, just to reiterate the way that works, if you're joining us recently and didn't, follow along all or most of last year, or really just any previous episode, because it's such a theme here, we do use that feedback button. We review all the data, though there's so much of it now, and it's such a volume that we do it a little bit more of a we use some algorithms to hunt through stuff, we search through stuff, and we do categorize items and really use the feedback that you send us to prioritize what we do next. And in a lot of cases, we work on the most important features, especially as we're starting to build from the ground up. It's really obviously critical to get some of these core functions, essential features that y'all are out there asking us for. So we really look into that data. We read it as much as we can, and we categorize it really using additional tools like search and just adding keyword terms and categorizing things with labels and stuff. So it's very important to us. And if you hit that feedback button, it's gonna get counted over time. So don't fear that it's going into a black box where nothing comes out and your feedback's not responded to. Hopefully by now, especially if you've been following along with us, you're noticing that we are picking off some of the highest input items in the feedback form. So yeah, keep the information coming, keep sending us your requests, and we will use that information.
Yeah. Well, Connor, thank you for the amazing segue to our next feature, because this was one of the ones that I remember, even first couple of months of Luna being out, people asking for their for count in, for being able to count in at the beginning of the track, and this arrived, I believe, in 1.1.5. The update just went out a week or so ago. So Matt, let me share your screen and let's have you walk us through how the count in functionality works.
Totally. Yeah, so up in the click section up top here, you notice there's a little 1 next to the metronome icon. Mm-hmm. So if you basically that'll turn count in on and off just by clicking the 1. When it's lit up, it's on. You can click at the top where it says click, and you can set the count in bars. So by default it's set to 1, but you can also do 2 and 4. Which 4 I really appreciate as a drummer that records himself, gives me time to run over the drum kit and sit down and get situated.
Yep.
And then all the other basic features that we had before, like being able to determine whether the click plays during play or record, where it routes to, and all that. Basically, the count in follows the same metronome settings that you were used to using previously. Yeah, let me just give you a little quick demo of it. I did something I never do here when I started this loop on bar 1, so that would be problematic in older versions, but in this version I can go to bar 1, hit record, it'll give me a 1 bar count in, and then I can start recording. So it makes it really easy just to drop in on a certain part and start recording, not have to set a pre-roll like you would have to previously. And yeah, super useful.
And so that's a great note there, Matt, because this setting doesn't just apply to starting on bar 1, beat 1, right? So if you go to bar 5, hit record, it's going to give you that 1 bar count in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Wherever I start in the timeline, it'll give me that 1 bar count in as long as this is turned on. So if I want to just punch in right in the middle here, I could do the same thing, give me a 1 bar count in, and then I'm ready to go.
Nice. Well, and the one thing to really note here, guys, and I got to demo this one when we did our preview show, is that you'll notice, on Matt's screen, the 1 is highlighted, but the metronome is not. And then you also notice that when he was pressing record, we're hearing the count in, but then as soon as playback starts, the click goes off. So again, this is it's really nice having those two settings separated, so that way you can have a dedicated, cool, here we go, and then assume that you're in and that you don't need the click anymore, or you can turn the click on. So yeah, having those two separated. So the key thing here is keyboard shortcuts, right? So I know the number pad ones because I'm spoiled on with a full desktop keyboard. So 7 for metronome and 8 for the count in. That's on a number pad keyboard. For laptop users, what are those keyboard shortcuts?
I'm on a full size keyboard as well, so I don't know off the top of my head. Connor, you know that one?
Yeah, so it's K or Shift K. So K is it will turn the metronome itself on and off, and Shift K will turn count in on and off. So whether you're on a laptop or on a full size keyboard, you can use either, or if you just prefer to have your keys in home row for other types of workflows, tabbing around, identifying bars, going from bar to bar, you can do it kind of in either place. So there's some core functionality like turning on those features. We have to have in the home row as well as on the numeric keypad so that laptop folks can function.
I can't tell you the number of times I've been frustrated by other programs that don't have a regular keyboard version of a shortcut that's over on the number pad. So I'm glad that you guys are thinking for both desktop and laptop users like that.
For sure.
Totally. Yeah, and Mike had a question in the chat here. Can the count in play audio before the punch? Count in won't play audio. That's when you would use pre-roll instead, which is a reminder. You can turn on with Command K, and then you can set by holding down the Option key and clicking ahead of the playhead the amount that you want to be the pre-roll. So like right now, I have a 1 bar pre-roll.
That's
the
such
cool
a
thing
good
about that
thing
is
to
the whole
talk about it, differentiate.
Yeah, the count in is really handy for if there's a tempo change ahead of what you want to play from. So in a lot of cases, you don't want to hear the audio or the slowed down tempo. You want the count in to be at the tempo that you're going to punch in. So that's a good good way to use the count in when there's in and around a tempo change.
I hadn't thought about that one, Drew. But you're right. That is really cool. So I guess it's important to put.
If you're going from 80 to 90, then you want the count in to be at 90. So you park the cursor where it's at 90, and then your count in will be at 90. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that way you don't have to listen to 80 BPMs when you're about to punch at 90.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's super important to ask that question and understand the difference there of like count in really is for a like, okay, ready, go kind of thing, and not necessarily an overdub or a punch in unless you're in that scenario that Drew just mentioned, which is actually, it is a detail that we actually spend a good bit of time making sure worked correctly, is that if you are parked somewhere, that it's not actually just rolling back and playing and like muting everything else or doing something tricky like that, which actually is the case in a lot of other programs. It's actually using the tempo and time signature information where you're parked to do the count in. So it's a very important detail. And then, so that's like a let's start from here workflow, whereas you would use pre-roll to hear all of the audio and everything on the timeline up until the point where you want to punch in or where you wanted to start a normal sort of playback or recording process. That's what pre-roll is for. So it's really important to have both because they serve two separate purposes.
And pre-roll will give you that little bit of handles on your audio as well to be able to do crossfades and adjust your punch a little bit, whereas a count-in would not.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I saw a question here pop up in chat, Matt. As long as we're talking about tempo changes, do you mind showing the folks real quick how to do tempo automations?
Yeah, for sure. So over in the ruler section, there's a tempo ruler. If you don't see it, click the 3 little dots and make sure tempo's checked. Then you can expand the tempo ruler, and just like writing an automation anywhere else, you can double click, add breakpoints, you can drag them around. You can even draw in, I believe. Yep, by holding down the Option key. The Control key to get the pencil tool. You can draw in automation as well. It works just like automation for any other parameter, but you can do it for tempo.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So and now count in will respect the time before that. Connor, I had a question.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a huge MIDI beat clock user. Does count in send MIDI beat clock out for that bar coming in, or does it wait until the beat actually starts?
Beat clock only initiates on actual like play of the session. So the count in is kind of like a separate, not quite a separate timeline, so to speak, but it's not sending the same information. Like there's no automation data. There's nothing really at all being sent during the count in except for the playback of the metronome audio. So the answer is no.
Nice. As you'd expect from a count in. So yeah, that's yet again like a good kind of line in the sand there of like when to use count in versus when to use pre-roll when you have the option to do both.
Right, exactly. Like if you're gonna punch in something coming from an external device that's synchronized with beat clock, you would want to use pre-roll to really make sure that everything's locked up, or just start your record pass early, because presumably it's, you're going to trim that audio out. So you could do either of those things. But yeah, count in theoretically could work for punching something in from external device synced with vClock. But yeah, you would use pre-roll or just free record at that point, and then trim to modify.
Nice. Awesome. Well, man, yeah, you had a really cool to see that feature getting implemented. I know, yet again, there are so many people asking for count in, from the day that we launched last year. So it's good to see. I'm sure everybody wants everything all at once, but again, these things they do take a lot of time to not just throw them into the app, but to do them and think about them and consider it in the context of everything else that is going on, and also with how it's going to work moving forward. So it's good to see that you guys put a lot of thought and detail into why would I have count in, how can we make it useful and make it different than pre-roll, stuff like that. It's just it's really cool to see even small itty bitty features like this are getting that same sort of thought and consideration before you guys throw them in.
Oh, totally. Yep.
Nice. Well, that brings us to the other feature that shipped in 1.1.5, which yet again is another one of those ones that now that we have it, it's hard to imagine life before it. But Connor, let me share your screen and let's show the people. So the metering on tape has been tweaked. So it's always been a VU meter. It's always been useful in some senses. But what have we tweaked about it now?
So let me explain what was happening before I explain what's happening now, because it's one of those things, again, if you've already, downloaded 1.1.5 and seen it and really experimented with it, you're like, oh my God, like how was I not noticing the lack of this before? But it's just where we were at and where we are now. So what was previously happening on all of the VU meters in the tape row was that the signal was being displayed based on the input just before the plugin, or the output just after the plugin in the case of ATR 102, which has an input and output metering switch. Now, the meters display exactly what you would expect to see on the actual hardware. So it fully leverages the previous emulations and really modeling that we did of the Studer and the ATR 102, uses the same metering information and ballistics as the actual hardware. So we had the ballistics part generally right before, but now what happens is as you adjust the input on a parameter within the effect, the signal on the VU meter changes. So that was the main drawback of what was happening previously, is if you were sending a signal into the tape and you were to do something like decrease the saturation, the change would not be realized in the VU meter. You would see it down on your track meter, but you wouldn't actually see it up here in the VU meter. And so now having this, it's like, oh man, this is so crucial to be able to just, like, you can see now, okay, I'm redlining the tape, and so I can back this off or get it correct. And there's other little, much more subtle things. Like, I'm a huge fan of bias because it can do so much interesting tone shaping, but it also has a huge effect on the signal level. And in some cases, it'll totally destroy your signal. But you can make these small adjustments to things like bias and the driver and repro EQs, and actually see the effect that it has on the signal level at that point in the process. So that's, of course, going to be signal measured within the tape effect and then pre all of the inserts. So it provides a truly useful meter now, whereas before it was informational. You could get some sense of like how hot you were going to tape, so to speak, but now it is actually a useful, fully representative meter based on exactly what the hardware was doing. So I can also show you here that with the ATR 102, and let me back out a little bit, there's more metering options in ATR 102, of course. You've got the input and output metering, and let me get this in. Okay, I gotta back out, otherwise I'm gonna put this over here so that I can see them close together. Get zoomed back in for you guys, and you can see that with the stereo meters here, if I were to do something like go to input metering and back off on the repro head, nothing's changing, because this is actually, of course, calculating post-tape in the machine itself. And so I would only see a meter value change as I adjust the record knob here. And again, that was something that wasn't happening. And it was a huge sort of like, let's really get to that as soon as we can kind of thing for ATR 102 in particular, because it's much more of a mastering oriented, bus processor sort of final mix kind of thing. of course, because it's so easy to use in Luna, you end up putting it on every bus, and it's just like, oh my god, everything just sounds so much better with more tape. It's kind of one of those like you just can't, more tape is always kind of better. So just go ahead and smear this across your entire session. You can't go wrong. But now you can go right with the VU meters because they actually show you useful information. Of course, on output, if you were to do something like switch to output metering and either pre or post fader, you can see I'm not getting anything, and that's because the repro head is gained all the way down, of course. So I can start to bring this up. And furthermore, if I'm pre fader, zoom out a bit here. And apologies for the lack of audio. Today was a technical difficulties day for my main system. I can see that if I'm on post fader, the fader, of course, is affecting the volume into tape. So you've got all these ways in which Luna was capable of affecting the signal going into tape, particularly with ATR 102, but it wasn't realized in the tape meters until now. So it's a subtle change in terms of overall functionality, but it makes a huge impact in the user experience. I'm really glad we got that in there.
Yeah, me too.
How dare you refine things and make them better.
Right.
Yet again, this is being able to turn the saturation up, see the reflection in the meters instantly is a huge game changer. A question for the summing meters is it the same sort of functionality? Like when I guess as you're moving your fader, changing your level into the meters, obviously it changes, but does like the headroom control or anything like that affect the meters?
So those are unchanged, and those were always showing input metering to the bus. So there's nothing really different about that. The trim control and everything is kind of like pre-meter. So that's just there's just sort of one state for this. Headroom doesn't affect it typically. I just froze there, I think. So, but yeah, so this is essentially unchanged because it was technically correct based on where we put the signal. Of course, in a traditional console environment, it's not like there's something to model like there was for Studer ATR 102. These summing amps usually are just like, faceless inserts somewhere in the circuitry of the console that might have some under the hood things like for instance with Neve summing. This is a modeled trim control and modeled impedance setting, but you wouldn't have access to that on the front panel. So this VU meter is sort of an affordance based on let's show the signal level into the processor at this point. So that's what the VU meter is displaying here.
Nice, and it's also for people following along at home. This now becomes a useful tool to have both the summing and your master tape meters there. So now you can use your summing meter that's helping you judge your level input into the bus, right? So you can always have a view of like, am I going in too hot to my bus overall? But now you have your tape to actually monitor either your output or the output out of your summing. You kind of have a multiple pickoff points for the metering in the ATR 102. So yet again, as you can see, like even on Connor's screen, like the meters are not necessarily, they aren't moving exactly the same because they're getting slightly different information.
Exactly.
Nice. Awesome. Well, yeah, dude, yet again, it's one of those things now that I see the saturation turn up and down, like as you'd expect, it's hard to imagine going backwards from that. Yeah. So it's super helpful, and really glad that you guys made that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge improvement. It's definitely like, in my mind, I was always kind of like, it's like, I know it's really important. And without actually, until I saw it, I was like, man, it's so much better this way. It's so useful. It's so responsive. It truly, we say like, part of the fabric of the mixer, and it really enhances that aspect of this integration in Luna, where these effects are truly built into the Luna GUI, like, or to the Luna engine in a way now that with this enhancement to the GUI is truly represented and gives you that immediate responsive feeling with these processors straight in line. It's really awesome.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Yeah, man, seeing lots of activity here in the chat today. I'm peeking over every once in a while, trying to catch up on it. Matt or Drew, any questions or relevant things that we should bring up here before we close out?
There's definitely some people asking about the controllers, and I pointed them to the, a preview on January 28th. We did Connor previewed MCU support, which is coming to Luna sometime this year. So if, for those of you asking about controllers, that's something that, go back to the 28th stream and you can check out what Connor previewed and see that that's coming. So I'm seeing that happen and seeing that in the chat a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, that's really that was a really fun special show, being able to kind of show people a peek under the hood of what's yet to come. Yeah, Connor, is there any kind of requests for feedback from the dev team in terms of stuff like that?
We definitely saw a spike in control surface specific feedback. A lot of it is exactly in line with the kind of information we want from users, which is just an indication of what devices that they use. And we've definitely noticed that information. It hasn't changed anything substantially yet, because it's really just more of the kind of the same statistical information, so to speak, where there's a huge body of control surfaces out there that support MCU. And so if you're saying, oh, I want my SSL nucleus to work, or I want my PreSonus fader port with one fader on it to work, you're actually, technically behind the scenes asking for the same thing, which is MCU support. So and then of course now with the new, very, very popular, and I think Drew has one, the SSL, that's all going to be in line with, what functionality MCU offers. And look at that, pretty. There's
Nice.
of course other control surfaces out there, and just so keep that feedback coming. Beyond that, it was, like you mentioned, Ben, really fun to start to preview features, and that was very different than the normal Universal Audio tack of we do not comment on the future. And we're kind of, we're a little bit back to that now, where it's like we wanted to show you guys the things that are very important to us to release, to ship within this year and get out into the field. But there's other things that we're working on too. And so it's a lot of exciting stuff that's going on, but we can't really comment at this point about any of the dates of these things or what other features we have in flight. We just have to always ask, please hit that feedback button and keep sending us that information, because like I said earlier.
And that's not to be mean or anything. It's just out of, you don't want to make a promise you can't fulfill,
Totally,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the basic
That's
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Ben said too, there's a lot of hard, complicated stuff that goes on to get these things, even as basic as some of them might feel and be, for a brand new piece of software like this. There's a lot of work involved in getting some of the core functions involved back in the program, and that's something that we take really seriously and are working very, very hard on, as well as also trying to do some things that we think are really different and really new and exciting. And so you've already seen that combination from us of okay, we're going to do a really amazing implementation of bus summing, which you can't do with individual plugins in the same way, where you've got fader tapers and all these other things that come into play in Luna. It's really only possible in an environment like that. So we're starting to do those things with tape and the bus input summing and things like that, as well as all of the de facto must-have sort of workstation features. So we're balancing both.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I saw a nice, fun question. I think Lorenzo was asking, what's everybody's favorite summing between right now? We got API and Neve, or none. The none is also a valid option. So everybody in the chat that's using the summing, I'd love to kind of just quick straw poll what you guys are liking, and then while everyone in the chat's answering, let's go around, quick little round table here. Everybody's favorite summing, and so Matt, what's your favorite?
Depends on what I'm doing, but I think I reach for Neve more. I just like the energy and character it adds. The API I go for if I'm doing kind of a cleaner thing, but if I want something that's a little bit more characteristic, definitely go for Neve.
Nice. How about you, Drew?
I'm API right now, and that's probably mostly because it's new. Maybe I tend to, whenever there's something new, I gravitate toward. I remember that with Jeff Baldings when we did the stream with him, where it's like, what's your favorite compressor? The newest one, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of always my answer. I jump on them, I jump on them and then just try and find out, use the heck out of them and try and figure out what they do well.
Nice. How about you, Connor?
So I was a Neve low impedance guy all the way, because I'm basically just a Luddite who, if it gets louder and sounds better, I'm just that's fun. I'm down. I'm going to keep going with that. But now I'm all API. I think someone said it in the chat. It's API on buses, Neve on main, where you just get to combine these flavors. And I saw that and I was like, that's right on. I just can't get enough of the Neve low impedance, but also with the API, that is such a clean, just crisp, amazing, just immediate sort of punch sound that doesn't really change a whole lot volume wise the Neve low impedance does. So it's nice to balance both of them. And yeah, right now I'm on API.
Nice. Yeah. For me, I think I'm really close to 50-50 on most of my mixes, but for sure, for me, I think my default for anything that has transient material, like drums, acoustic guitars, bass, stuff that it's got a lot of rhythmic stuff. I typically am starting those on API nowadays because it's got the extra headroom. It seems to really love those sounds. But then like strings, vocals, pianos, and then it's a little bit more harmonically rich, or I want to add more harmonics to, then it's Neve. And then of course I changed my mind halfway through, and it's so much fun being able to go back and forth between the two, and to just really, it's one of those things like you can't say like, man, this one's like 1,000 times better than that one. It's always this like, man, it feels a little bit better now. And then you switch back and you're like, no, actually, maybe I like this way. Like I find myself constantly toggling between the two. And then, API, man, I'm so 50-50. I asked a question I can't answer myself super clearly.
We need a third one. We need a third one, Ben.
Yeah,
The
no,
answer is we need a third
Just
one.
to confuse us
tiebreaker.
even more.
Exactly. But and every once in a while, like especially for some of the when I'm doing like hip hop mixes, sometimes it actually is too much color on stuff. Where I have found myself like trying to work it and trying to be like, I want, and then like I audition, I bypass it, and I'm like, it's actually sometimes it rounds things out too much. So I'll either disable it or I'll start dialing back the headroom control. That's another really quick way that if you're finding like, there is such a thing as overcooking your mixes, right? So like being able to go in there and just roll that headroom control back a little bit can sometimes really save the sound without drastically modifying your levels or changing up your gain staging. So yeah, I see a lot. I'm just gonna scroll back through the chat here and let's get a little heartbeat here. We got Neve API, Neve API, API, Neve API, API. Can't afford either. Neve, both API on every bus, but Neve on the master. Neve API, Neve NAPI, clever. API and Neve are both good, very different. Learning API, Neve, Navi, Neve, SSL. I don't know how you guys are getting SSL in this mix. That was not in the question. API, drums and Neve. Usually stack 3 Neves and 2 APIs. That's funny, Cybern. I guess I've always done like my bus groups and then my main, but I've never really tried like a bus into 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 a bus. That might be that'd be a fun challenge to see someone just go completely overdose on saturation through the summing. API works for Drew's OCD. Neve on low for Monty. Yep, dude, you and Monty are the same, Connor. Leaving the Neve on the low impedance setting.
So good.
It's so
The
good.
only way to use Neve.
Exactly. Let's see. API Smacks. Yep. Awesome. API Navi. You guys, this is amazing. Well, man, it's super cool to see what you guys are all using and all the excitement for these new features that we have coming up. And good news for everybody, if you're watching this today, we're going to be back on our regular schedule. As you guys may notice, we're 1 hour later than we were last year. This brings us a little closer to lunchtime here on the West Coast, which is nice for us. And hopefully everybody is able to still hang out with us on Mondays. So we'll be back again next week. More question and answers, kind of showing you guys some stuff. So if you in the meantime, if you guys questions pop up that you want us to address or anything you guys want to see us kind of dive a little bit deeper on, feel free to hit us up on social media. It's @UAudio basically everywhere. You can throw us on the Facebook group. The kind folks like Drew Drew's out there collecting the questions and getting a real sense of what you guys want to see. So yeah, if there's something specifically you want us to dive in on and do a segment about, hit us up. As always, if you guys are here early, you get to check out the countdown where we feature music from all of our users. We're always soliciting new music. So if you guys have music that you want to see in the countdown, hit us up live @uaudio.com. Send us an MP3 with a little description of what you're using and what obviously please include the credits so we get the artist and the song name correct. But I always love also reading about how you guys are using Luna and Apollos to create those tracks. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you hit the notification bell, your phone will buzz you every time we're about to go live. I know.
Man, I got to do that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I get an alert every time I'm about to go live on here, which is great. It's very helpful. But for you guys at home, if you don't want to miss an episode, and also all the videos that we're releasing in between, we've got some really cool stuff coming up around the UAFX pedals. And yeah, but if you guys have got questions about the pedals, feel free to drop those in, and we'll definitely be doing some shows around those as we get closer to them shipping. Yeah, anything else
Also,
you get?
don't forget the forum, www.uadforum.com. That's kind of like the main gathering place for most of the hardcore users. So if you're not familiar with the forums, definitely sign up, join in. Lots of great conversations going on, lots of great help, lots of great users who will offer help. So it's a really great community. So don't forget to visit.
Awesome, guys. We made it through our first Office Hours 2021. New software, new look, everything. It survived. I'm so happy that nothing crashed, and it's so, like I've said it multiple times now, it's so good to see you guys back here with us in the chat. Always fun hanging out with this community. You guys are always so awesome, so helpful and giving as well. I see a lot of people answering each other's questions, and it's a really great group of people here, man. And yeah, guys, thank you again so much for joining us. We'll be back next Monday. Everybody have a great week. Go out, make some good music. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody.
See ya.
Have a great time.